In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro discusses the recent debate between Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida and Governor Gavin Newsom of California, highlighting the stark contrast in their visions for their respective states. DeSantis emphasizes Florida's success in governance, safety, budget, and lower taxes, while criticizing California's failures due to leftist ideology. He also addresses the issue of inappropriate curriculum in schools and the importance of parental rights in education. On the other hand, Newsom criticizes DeSantis for his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, accusing him of being too harsh and too loose in his policies. He also falsely claims that DeSantis banned books in Florida, to which DeSantis responds by showing a book called Gender Queer and explaining why it is not age-appropriate for children. Shapiro points out that while the debate between DeSantis and Newsom is important, it may not be the debate America needs right now. He argues that the real debate America needs is whether the country is capable of having a civil debate on policy issues, given the current polarization and radicalism from the left. Shapiro also discusses Elon Musk's criticism of corporate leaders who engage in virtue signaling while promoting harmful material. He highlights Musk's efforts to preserve free speech and the importance of supporting platforms like X, which allow for open dialogue and discussion. The podcast then shifts to the situation in the Middle East, specifically the resumption of offensives by the Israel Defense Forces in the Gaza Strip. This comes after Hamas broke the ceasefire by firing rockets at Israel and carrying out a terror attack in Jerusalem. Shapiro condemns Hamas for their actions, including the kidnapping and mistreatment of hostages, as well as the theft of humanitarian aid. He also addresses the propaganda tactics used by Hamas, including hostage videos and false claims about Israeli airstrikes. Shapiro emphasizes the true nature of Hamas as a terrorist organization and the need to confront their actions. Shapiro also discusses the response of the United States, particularly the statements made by Secretary of State Antony Blinken. He criticizes Blinken for suggesting that Israel should change its military operations in Gaza, arguing that this approach is misguided and fails to address the root cause of the conflict. Shapiro then delves into the broader implications of the conflict, including the role of the Palestinian Authority and the support of other Arab nations. He highlights the complexity of the situation and the need for a more nuanced understanding of the dynamics at play. Shapiro also addresses the role of the media in shaping public perception of the conflict, arguing that there is a lack of balanced reporting and a tendency to vilify Israel while downplaying the actions of Hamas. In addition, Shapiro discusses the role of foreign policy in addressing the conflict, particularly the need for a more realistic and pragmatic approach. He criticizes the view that the world is a playground where all nations can coexist peacefully, arguing that this perspective fails to account for the realities of power dynamics and conflicting interests. Shapiro also addresses the role of religious leaders, particularly Pope Francis, in shaping public discourse on the conflict. He criticizes the Pope for suggesting that Israel's response to Hamas constitutes terrorism, arguing that this characterization fails to acknowledge the actions of Hamas and the need for Israel to defend itself.